An ordinary day, an ordinary person. A secret that nobody saw coming. What investigators discovered would shock an entire nation. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why this case is still remembered today. Let's begin. Before we begin, remember that every case you see on this channel is based on real events that changed real lives forever. Some stories reveal shocking crimes, others expose dark secrets that remained hidden for years. But every investigation raises one question: what really happened? In today's case, the truth is far more disturbing than the headlines ever revealed. As the story unfolds, you'll discover evidence, unexpected twists, and the moments that changed everything. So stay with me until the very end, because the final revelation often changes the way you'll see the entire case. This is Dark Case Diaries.
Have you ever seen a dry, white-collar corporate crime suddenly warp into this wild, high-stakes international espionage thriller? Well, welcome to today's Explainer, where we're going to trace the unbelievable footprint of one of Europe's most wanted men. We're looking at a story that starts in mundane boardrooms and somehow ends up involving fake passports, Russian intelligence agencies, and active war zones. It is an absolute masterclass in deception, and we are going to map the whole thing out right now.
Picture this. Our story opens with a scene straight out of a movie. It's the early evening of June 19th, 2020. A taxi speeds from Vienna to this tiny, quiet little airport. Out steps a well-dressed guy. Light blue jeans, crisp white shirt, black leather jacket, black sneakers. A small Cessna business jet has been sitting on the tarmac waiting for him all afternoon. The man walks right up to the pilots and pays for the charter flight in cash, exactly 7,920 euros. No receipt requested. At precisely 8:03 p.m., the plane takes off and the passenger just vanishes. Section 1. The Missing Billions and the Midnight Escape. So who exactly was this passenger, Jan Marsalek? And why was he making a midnight dash in a private jet? Well, to understand why he was running, we have to look at the empire he helped build and how spectacularly it was crumbling around him that very day. To get why he ran, you really have to understand the sheer scale of Marsalek's illusion. He was the chief operating officer of a company called Wirecard. Now, back then, Wirecard was publicly celebrated as Germany's answer to Silicon Valley. It was essentially pitched as a European PayPal that had this meteoric rise, even briefly becoming larger than Deutsche Bank. But the reality? A total stark contrast. Its actual origins were way less prestigious. It literally started out as a startup processing payments for pornography and gambling sites, before doing a massive image wash to attract a more reputable clientele.
But here is the crucial turning point. On June 18, 2020, the day before Marsalek's flight, the whole facade just completely shattered. Auditors from EY dropped an absolute bombshell. Wirecard could not provide receipts for a staggering 1.9 billion euros. That is a massive sum of money that was supposedly sitting in accounts in Asia, but it was just gone, entirely missing. The company's CEO stepped down the next day and was later arrested, because it turned out that money likely never existed in the first place, and Marsalek, he was immediately suspended from work.
And this is where you see just how prepared he was to run. While his CEO was facing the music, Marsalek executes this rapid-fire escape filled with total misdirection. On June 18th, he tells his contacts in Munich he urgently needs to fly to the Philippines to track down the missing billions. But the next day, he takes that Cessna not to Asia, but to Minsk, Belarus. And he uses a Caribbean diplomatic passport to get a VIP landing. Then, a few days later, on June 23rd, official immigration records show him landing in the Philippines and flying to China. But here's the catch. Airport cameras show absolutely nothing. He wasn't there. He actually had corrupt immigration officers fake the data entries just to throw investigators off his scent. Section 2. A man of many faces, spies, and aliases. Because as investigators started raiding his Munich properties, they quickly realized they weren't just chasing a corrupt corporate tech guy, they were dealing with a man living a bizarre parallel life.
To travel completely under the radar, Marsalek used an absurd list of fake identities. Back at Wirecard, he'd literally log into corporate video calls as John Smith. While he was on the run, he texted under the name Richard DeBossi, and he slipped out of Belarus as Max Mao. But actually scratch that, the most incredible alias has to be Reverend Konstantin Bajov. In September 2020, Marsalek actually assumed the identity of a real Russian Orthodox priest from Lipetsk who just happened to share a striking resemblance to the bearded fugitive. He literally stole a priest's identity on paper so he could go deeper underground. you really see this crazy double life when you look at his environments. In Munich, his base was this luxury villa on Prinzregentenstrasse. It was basically a high-end clubhouse for agents and money launderers, packed with Italian-designed furniture, expensive oil paintings, and, weirdly enough, a little figurine of Vladimir Putin right on his desk. But investigators also found black combat uniforms hidden away. Why? Because in 2017, Marsalek took this bizarre, thrill-seeking trip to Palmyra, Syria, which was an active combat zone freshly liberated by Syrian and Russian forces. He went to a war zone just for the thrill of it.
But, he wasn't exactly James Bond. When Marsalek showed up in Syria parading around in black tactical gear, Kevlar helmets, and bulletproof vests, the Russian troops there actually mocked him. They basically told him he had nice stuff, but if he went for a stroll wearing all that, every sniper in the area would think he was a VIP target and take him out instantly. As the Brits like to say, and as the troops quickly realized, the guy was all the gear and no idea.
Section 3. State Secrets and Mercenaries. Now, we shouldn't let his amateur hour in Syria fool us. Marsalek wasn't just playing dress-up. Over nearly a decade, he had cultivated himself into a deeply embedded, highly dangerous intelligence asset. By 2021, authorities were certain Marsalek had defected to Russia, and his transition was shockingly seamless. Think about it. In Munich, he's dining at Il Mulino, surrounded by former Austrian intelligence agents, living in a luxury villa. Cut to Moscow, he's dining at the ultra-exclusive La Murray restaurant. He's being guarded by the Russian FSB Secret Service, and he's living in a stylish estate in the heavily guarded Meindorf Gardens, literally right around the corner from Vladimir Putin's own estate. Different handlers, same exact lavish lifestyle. So why does Russia treat him so well? Because of the severe, real-world damage he caused in the West. As an executive at Wirecard, Marsalek was feeding Moscow's sensitive customer data. Since the German federal police actually used Wirecard to process payments, Marsalek could track the identities and whereabouts of undercover German agents. He also directed Bulgarian gangs to spy on and hack his critics, like Financial Times journalist Dan McCrum. On top of all that, he illegally moved money to finance secret operations for the Russian paramilitary group Wagner.
And his value to the Kremlin definitely didn't stop once he fled. To understand the gravity of what he kept doing, we need to talk about SINA. SINA stands for Secure Internetwork Architecture. It's a highly classified crypto technology used by German security personnel and global authorities to handle top-secret state data. It is literally the gold standard for protecting government secrets.
Get this. In 2022, while actively hiding as one of the world's most wanted men, Marsalek personally orchestrated the smuggling of one of these top-secret SINA laptops. Using his network of corrupt Austrian intelligence officers in Vienna, he had the device acquired, smuggled across international borders, and delivered straight to the Russian FSB in Moscow. Leaked text messages even show him confirming the delivery, noting that Russian operatives paid a mere 20,000 euros in cash for this absolutely devastating intelligence breach.
Section 4. The ongoing manhunt, looking for Marsalek. So, where does all this leave us today? Back in Germany, a massive trial has been grinding on since December 2022 over the Wirecard collapse. If he's convicted for the financial fraud alone, and we're not even counting the state espionage yet, Marsalek faces up to 14 years in prison. But to put him away, they obviously have to catch him first.
The only tangible sign of life we've had from Marsalek recently is an 8-page letter that showed up at German judicial offices in July 2023. In it, he claims he is absolutely innocent. He shifts all the blame onto the prosecution's star witness, his former manager, Oliver Bellenhaus, basically painting himself as the victim of a grand scheme. Legally speaking, the court deemed the letter completely useless, but it proves one very chilling fact. Jan Marsalek is alive, he's active, he's talking to his lawyers, and he is watching all of this unfold from afar.
Which leaves us with this final, haunting question. While German authorities officially believe he's tucked away in Moscow, recent reports suggest Marsalek might actually be operating out of Dubai right now. Following the death of Wagner Group leader Yevgeny Prigozhin, reporters suspect Marsalek may be using his financial expertise to help rebuild the mercenary group down in Africa. From a 7,000 euro flight out of Vienna to potentially pulling the strings of a global shadow army, the hunt for Jan Marsalek continues. So what do you think his next move is going to be? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and remember to always keep questioning what's hiding in plain sight.
Every true crime case leaves behind more questions than answers. Behind every headline are real people, real families, and lives forever changed. If you found this investigation informative, consider subscribing so you never miss another carefully researched true crime story. I'd also like to hear your thoughts on today's case. Share your opinion respectfully in the comments below. Thank you for watching. Stay safe, take care, and I'll see you in the next investigation.